The New Orleans Saints travel to Atlanta to face the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. The Saints are installed as a 10-point favorite on BETDAQ, 53 the total in this game. These two teams, division rivals, that played a very competitive game back in Week 1 in the Superdome in New Orleans. Saints came out with a 23-17 win there. But since then, these two teams' seasons have gone in opposite directions. Saints sitting at 8-2. They're one of the best teams in the entire NFL. Excellent on offense, as we know. Second only to Denver in yards per game, points per game, passing offense. But they're also excellent on defense this season. New Orleans top 5 in the league in both yards allowed and points allowed. They're especially good in the secondary, third in the NFL in passing defense. So it's really tough to find a weakness on this New Orleans team. The Atlanta Falcons, on the other hand, have lost 7 of their last 8 games. They are an absolute disaster right now. They sit at 2-8. You never want to accuse professional athletes of quitting because you and I can't get inside their head. We don't really know how hard they're trying. But looking across the NFL, if you had to pick out one team and say that potentially that team has quit, potentially they're not matching the effort of their opposition on a weekly basis, you might want to look at the Atlanta Falcons. They've lost their last 4 games by 13 points or more. Last week's performance, especially disheartening. They allowed 41 points to the Tampa Bay Bucks, a team that entered that game with a 1-8 record and an offense that ranked 31st, next to last in both yards per game and points per game. Only the Jacksonville Jaguars were worse in both categories. And again, the Bucks hung 41 points on this Falcons defense. Atlanta now ranks 29th in the NFL in points allowed. So what is it going to look like when the New Orleans Saints offense faces a defense like this in a dome? Now, I know this game isn't in New Orleans, but it is in a dome on a fast track. We know that Saints offense seems to play at another level on the turf. Numbers back that up at home anyway. Saints averaging 80 more pass yards per game at home this season than on the road. And like I said, even though this is not a home game, it is a game in a dome against a bad defense. So I expect Drew Brees and that New Orleans offense to have a whole lot of success in this game. So there's a whole lot of reasons to like the Saints here, obviously. But there's some reasons to like the Atlanta Falcons as well. And before you rush to the Saints side, I suggest pumping the brakes a little bit and at least taking a look at both sides. In Atlanta, you have the opportunity to back a double-digit home dog facing a division rival. And this game, remember, is being played on a short week. Both these teams only had 4 days rest. The Saints' victory over the San Francisco 49ers last week, very physical game. You look at the injury report right now, seems like about half the New Orleans team. Several key players are listed as questionable for this Thursday night game. Starting quarterback Jabari Greer was lost for the season when he tore his ACL against the Niners last week. So the Saints may be a little beat up and depleted. As we said, this is a short week. And these two teams have a history of playing close games. 9 of the past 10 New Orleans-Atlanta games have been decided by 10 points or fewer. So, again, if you feel comfortable about laying 10 points in a situation like this, when it's the road team who's favored over a division rival, and that road team coming off a big win that might have cost them some players, and who knows, they might be looking past this game a bit. You certainly couldn't blame them with what we've seen out of the Falcons this season. And the Saints have some serious games ahead, including a trip to Seattle. So look, I do lean towards New Orleans here. It'd be very, very tough, if not impossible at this point, to trust the Atlanta Falcons with your money. As we said, they might have laid down on Coach Mike Smith. We'll see in the coming weeks. But over the last 4 weeks, we're left to conclude that they might not be playing as hard as their opposition. But I'm not wild about the Saints side here either. I'd like this number a lot better if it were, 7 or 7.5. But a 10-point number against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that does have a functional passing offense. The Falcons 6th in the NFL in pass yards per game. Matt Ryan averaging 275 pass yards per game. And as we said, New Orleans did lose starting cornerback Jabari Greer for the season last week. So I don't know. This feels like a tough one to call. One that looks like an easy game to call. New Orleans, obviously, the obvious side here, and the Saints have been a popular public bet out in Las Vegas. But you never know. Falcons could sneak in for the backdoor cover here. Do expect the Saints to win this game, but don't feel all that comfortable laying the 10.